We just witnessed the largest crash in crypto's history by far. And if you made it through and you're still here and you're still interested in seeing what might come next, well, this is the video for you. Now, this crash was over 4 times as large as COVID and 20 times larger than the crash that initially sent us into a premature bear market in the previous cycle. So in this video, I'm going to try my best to answer the question, will altcoins survive? What comes next? And what am I actually doing right now to hedge my bets? To start things off, I want to begin with a quote from none other than the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett. Okay, not that quote. Throw up the actual one. I don't think I have to be the 10th person today to show you Bitcoin's chart. It doesn't look amazing, but in the grand scheme of things, this crash was 10%. If we zoom out, we've experienced far worse in Bitcoin's history, even this 50% crash that occurred in the middle of the previous cycle. We'll get into analyzing this later on in the video because obviously altcoins got the brunt of the damage. But what's actually happened to kick off this massive crash? Well, it started with Trump saying he's canceling his meeting with the president of China and he's going to be imposing like 100% tariffs as well.
You're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
But as Dread Bongo points out here, this is a typical playbook we've seen many times since, January of this year, where Trump threatens high tariffs. Maybe he even implements them for a very short period of time. Then he walks them back. And markets are usually in the positive a month or a few weeks later. And as a matter of fact, it took about 24 hours for us to get a slight hint that this isn't likely going to happen in terms of the tariffs being implemented. Trump said that he is not canceling his meeting with China and he might still have it. So before I actually get into what I'm doing with my altcoins here and what I'm expecting next, I think it's pretty important to help you guys out understanding the overall picture. And part of that is looking through the noise. So what actually caused this, and is this systemic or is it a black swan? And what I really mean by that is this something that's going to get much worse from here? Like, are there bigger cracks that have come from this? Or was this a massive flush and will likely continue higher here over the next week? Well, first of all, remember what I said when October started. It's funny how a date rolls around and we start pumping, especially because that date is recognized as pump start date. I'm talking about October. So that's why I made a video speaking about this way back on October 1st. And I spoke about the fact that October, this event, this day where everyone's supposed to be super excited and magically, like a fairy waving its wand, we were supposed to be going up and having a massive quarter 4. Now, you can see here there were some evident signs that pointed to the fact that it wasn't going to turn out exactly as people had hoped. Now, obviously, I didn't expect it to be as crazy as what's happened. No one did. But the point here being that the market makers, the cabal, the guys with all the money, the whales controlling the market, they create the headlines. They use headlines like Trump's tariff news and they send crypto down to the levels that they want. They use it to push the snowball down the mountain. Us as retail, we see the headlines and we react based on the headlines. So they create or they push, we react. This is why I was saying in this tweet and in this video, be very careful of a consensus where everyone is certain, because the market makers know that. Speaking of market makers, here are some possible theories of what's happened. I'll keep you guys updated on the progress of this. This is all just theory, but mark my words, something catastrophic has happened with the cabal, all right? The guys who control this market. Like Sandeep here says, the CEO of the Polygon Foundation, someone's gone bust. And we'll know who it was in the coming days because a crash like this isn't normal, even by crash or black swan standards. Marty Party says actually an insider here knew about the Trump tariff announcement 30 minutes before it was announced because they opened up a massive short position on Bitcoin and ETH on Hyperliquid, and they've profited in like 30 or 40 minutes, $200 million. Now, this guy says that CZ, the CEO of Binance, has intentionally done this or used the Trump news of the tariffs and flushed down the market to get rid of Wintermute in some way, shape, or form, which is market makers they usually work with. And so he says Wintermute, the most evil entity to ever attack crypto, was fully exterminated. Finally, this industry can prosper. Just remember, Wintermute serves major exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken, as well as 60 others. Now, to me, this would actually make sense. If a market maker, which is the largest in crypto, being Wintermute, explodes, crypto is going to suffer a lot. It's kind of like USDT, for example, going to Pang, because a lot of these exchanges rely on these guys to provide liquidity to coins. Now, as many of you may or may not know, market cap means nothing. What really matters in crypto is liquidity, okay? Because you can see here, Aerodrome only has in aggregate, roughly, let's just say $200,000 in volume and 2% depth. Okay, what that means is if I want to 2x Aerodrome, double the price, I need around $200,000 multiplied by 50, and that is roughly, again, being rough here, how much money I require in order to pump the coin up 2x. It's far less than having to invest $800 million in the market cap sense. And so liquidity matters. So this is why I go to say, if a market maker like Wintermute was intentionally headhunted by Binance and somehow gone kaput, that would actually do such a thing like this. If you're scratching your head like, wow, this seems woo-woo gaga, like, yeah, right, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, then I urge you to look into this deeper. You will come to the same conclusion. This is the Wild West, and these guys are the desert. They have complete control over everything. Now, the good news is I believe they will want an alt season because they'll actually make infinitely more money in this case. Will altcoins survive? And if so, what am I buying? What am I doing? Before I get into it, this is exactly why in the recent video where I said what I would do right now with $1,000 in crypto as a beginner, right? I said, if I was a beginner right now with $1,000, I would hold 33% cash and be around 66% in the market because of events like this. You never know, and there's always opportunities in crypto in general. Just a quick health check on Bitcoin as well. We aren't at the 365-day moving average. Some will use the 50-week moving average. Okay, so this is around $100,000 right now. If this is breached and we close beneath it on a weekly time frame, that is concerning. But we wicked to the 200 EMA and we've come up. The dust is still trying to settle, but the good news is we didn't land down here. But like I said, what's happening with altcoins? Well, I want to say there's good and there's bad news, and I want to start with the bad news. When a black swan event like this happens, it throws these charts out completely. So if we analyze the TA, which we are going to do right now, take it with a grain of salt. But as it stands, typically in cycles, these altcoin cycles, when we have alt season, we have very clear patterns, these 5-wave, Elliott wave patterns and structures. We see a very clear break from Bitcoin season into alt season. Altcoins go back up to their bear market highs at these levels. Once they're back to their bear market highs, they normally have a wave 2, which is a complete shock to the system. And then wave 3 and wave 5, that does come later on. This is where the money making is actually made. But this first wave here usually is just altcoins gaining some strength back, going back up to their previous local highs. And so that's what I thought we were in right now. I thought, based on this chart, we were trending towards those bear market highs, and things are looking fine until this black swan event came. Now, like I said, it's too early to know for certain that this has invalidated this for certain, but to me, it's far more likely that we are possibly somewhere in wave 2. This wave 2 in 2021, or technically 2020, actually bottomed at the, 0.08% level, and so did we here as well. Not to say it's going to, of course, mean that we're in wave 2 right now, but, okay, same level as you start to question this. If we move in deeper here, you can see that the others versus Ethereum chart has exhibited a wave 2 sign as well, all right, where it's come down to the exact same point we started these ascending channels in. Just like here, this was wave 2, all right? So this was this point over here. And again, we wicked down, we came down, and then we shot up into the wave 3, which was the major alt season. October in 2020 as well was a massive red candle looking at total 3 minus USDT over Bitcoin. That candle was actually a part of wave 2. And that wave 2 started in September of 2020, just like our sort of redness on this chart, you could say, did as well. So like I said, there is a forecast to be made that we are somewhere in this wave 2, which does mean wave 3 is ahead of us. All right, so don't mistake in that. One case to be made as well that we are in wave 1 as well still is that you can see at this point in wave 1, midway through, we did wick down to the 0.25 level over here. The ETH to Bitcoin chart shows a similar story because we've bounced off these lows. And you can see again, in September, we had this wave 2, which again, from September, we've started these red candles. And on Bitcoin's dominance chart as well, September 2020, we had a local bottom put in, and we only went up further from there until we eventually went into a full-blown wave 3, again, alt season. Looking at the macro, not so much into these internal crypto cycles, is the most important thing. That's why I will continue to bring you guys the business cycle, covering interest rates. Is the Fed hawkish? Are they dovish? Is it QE? Are we in QT? Like, what's actually happening? This, I think, is far more important because this will move the crypto market. This will cause alt season, undoubtedly. So global liquidity is very important. What do I actually think? I do think that an alt season is still ahead of us. I think this was a great opportunity to buy the dip. Whether this was intentionally, created to force liquidations, whether it was a centralized exchange versus a market maker, or whether something much more catastrophic or far left field has happened, I'm not entirely sure. But all we can do is, if we believe in the cycle, is to buy the dip. Now, I think it's important to buy the right altcoins, which is, again, what I'm looking to do here. This is why a sheet like this, which is looking at altcoins versus other altcoins dominance, is crucial, because we can literally see here what the strong coins are based on, have they gained strength in this market downturn, or have they lost strength? Have they really been sold off by retail? Or have retail gone, I'm going to buy more of this coin on this dip because I think it's a great coin? That is what this actually tells us. I'm not going to go into details here, but we're looking at altcoins versus altcoins. Their yearly performance, so from January to now, and their lows from April, the April 7th tariff lows, to now. How they done better or how they done worse than other altcoins. And so I'm looking at this chart in order to figure out which altcoins to buy. Coins that actually show strength, I will show you some here, is Centrifuge, is Chainlink, is actually Kronos, is obviously ETH. Athena's not doing too bad. Dog with Hat and also Dogecoin aren't doing too bad as well. Kita is doing really well. It's a smaller cap coin. So is Layer 0, Litecoin, Mantle. The list goes on. Quant actually is doing quite well. I know Sai's in here, Sui, Tron. Market dominance is crucial when we have market dips to have a look at, because like I said, that is literally telling you, have people decided to buy this coin or have they decided to sell this coin? A very important lesson that you should take away from this market dip as well is like what Cryptos R Us pointed out. Guys, a lot of these centralized exchanges, Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, Robinhood even, they actually went down. And so what does that mean? That means if it's the top of the market, if it's the next 6 months, maybe let's just say I'm right and we have an alt season still to come, at the very top of the market, you don't want to be selling there, guys, because you're going to have these exchanges have the same problems. It's either liquidity issues or it's something happens and goes offline. We can't help you and you can't sell your coins. And as a matter of fact, you can't even transfer your coins to a different exchange. They block it all. You're stuck in limbo, and unfortunately that leads to you getting the sunken cost fallacy and likely holding your bags for the next cycle, because when you do get access to your tokens, they're 20, 30, 50% lower than when you could have sold them, and you decide to just hold and hope for the best. Others, excluding the top 10, lost $132 billion in market cap in only 30 minutes. You can see this right here. Total 3, everything apart from Bitcoin and ETH lost $365 billion in market cap in the same time frame. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to remind you all, this isn't theory, this is practical, that you need far less money than you may think to move the prices and overall market. So just like it was very easy to wipe out $365 billion in market cap with $19 billion in liquidations, and again, this doesn't include Bitcoin and ETH, so it was far less for these coins. That just goes to show you, and show me at least, that you need that far less to move the market up. And so in aggregate across alts is when we have money begin to flow in from global liquidity, for example, these can move very quickly here, and you will find this market cap printing just like, some of these meme coins do, for example. Now, everyone's saying, well, Kyron, the liquidations kicked off a snowball which sent regular retail like you and I into panic mode with the Trump news and the massive downturn in crypto. We sold off as well. Guys, that's not the case, because this happened in a 5 to 30 minute period, depending on the altcoin. Most of us don't have the time to panic sell that quickly. That's at least just my opinion, this was most definitely a liquidity thing, which in my opinion proves the point that we don't need as much money in this market as you may think to send it higher. If the market cap goes from 1 trillion to 2 trillion, you don't actually need an additional $1 trillion of buy pressure to make that happen. You need far less. Ultimately, I'm just here to provide my opinions. I hope they do help nonetheless, and you guys do take them into consideration and listen to other people and do your own research. I know it's an overused term in crypto, but you just have to. You really, truly do have to understand these things for yourself and try to follow. That's why, again, we have our private communities to help people who don't have the time to learn this sort of stuff. But either way, guys, look, I know this is a tough battle, mentally speaking. We've been put through it, and now we have this. I think that this is all a part of a larger plan, and something's happened behind the scenes to, one of these market makers or exchanges or something. Something's exploded, all right? And we've seen the consequences, but I do think it's up from here. Funnily enough, everyone says that, right? But I do think it is up nonetheless, and we do have an alt season.